Get ready to take a journey with me today on Friday, June 23rd into the dynamic world of housing in Canada and Ontario. We're about to dive into some hot topics that are reshaping the way we live on this week's Shore Report. From the rising cost of construction and housing prices to the reasoning behind the interest rate hikes announced recently by the Bank of Canada and the controversial Bill 97, there's a lot happening that's affecting us all. So fasten your seatbelt as we embark on an exciting exploration of real estate, tenant rights, and the future of housing. Let's dive right in. Let's start by talking about something that affects all of us, the rising cost of building houses in Canada. It's important to understand construction material and labor costs because this factor can have a direct impact on housing prices. According to Statistics Canada, the price of new homes in Canada have gone up for the first time since last summer, which is very surprising considering the current financial landscape. In May, the new housing price index increased by a very small amount of 0.1%. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but it's significant because it's the first monthly increase we've seen since August 2022. While prices went up in some areas throughout Canada, they either stayed the same or even went down in other places. For example, Vancouver saw a 0.2% increase while Toronto experienced a slight decrease of 0.1%. The biggest drops were seen in Sudbury, where prices fell 1.2%. Builders in these areas blame the declines on weak market conditions. Since May 2022, new home prices have been falling in Canada. And one of the big factors is obviously the high interest rates, which have slowed down the housing market. In fact, in May, there was a 64% increase in unabsorbed inventory, which means that there are more unsold homes on the market. In summary, the absorption of new construction homes is on the decline due to interest rates, but this factor hasn't led to significant decreases in the pricing of new homes as construction costs are on the rise. The majority of builders, in particular those who are established, understand the pressures of demand on housing throughout Canada and particularly in Ontario, and they'll develop strategic plans to maintain their profitability throughout these challenging times, even if that means delaying projects or sales. On the flip side, recently the Bank of Canada surprised many experts by raising interest rates for the 9th time. Now, you might be wondering, why did they do that? Well, the BOC gave us some insight into their decision-making process, and it turns out that the resale housing market statistics, the same ones that we review on a month-to-month basis, played a big role in that decision. The market had been showing strong growth for 3 months, and that influenced the overall inflation rate. Inflation is a measure of how prices are rising over time, and in April, the Consumer Price Index, which tracks inflation, went up 4.4%. The bank said that the economy was still in high demand, meaning people wanted to buy a lot of things, and they also expected the supply and demand balance to take longer to stabilize than they initially thought. Recent data, including the increase in housing resale prices, indicated that people were still demanding more, especially in the housing market. This made the bank predict that the economy would grow faster than they anticipated back in April. But here's the catch. The bank has also concerned about the inflation. They expected it to go down to around 3% during the summer, but they noticed some worrying trends in the core inflation data. They were worried that inflation might stay too high above their target of 2%. That's not good because high inflation can cause problems in the economy. During their meeting, the bank's top official discussed various factors that affect the economy. They talked about things like consumer demand, which was stronger than expected. They also looked at past monetary policy decisions and how they were still influencing the economy. Other factors included pent-up demand for services, improvements in supply chain for goods, people saving more money, a tight job market, and even population growth. In the end, the bank decided to raise interest rates by 0.25% at their June meeting. This was their way of trying to balance supply and demand in the economy and bring inflation back down to their target of 2%. Now, don't worry if all of this seems complicated. The important thing to remember is that interest rates affect how much it costs to borrow money and how much people spend. When interest rates go up, it becomes more expensive to borrow money. So people might spend less. This can help keep prices from rising too quickly. Keep in mind, this might not be the last time the bank raises interest rates. They have another meeting scheduled in July, and experts are already predicting more changes. So stay tuned with the show report to ensure you stay on top of all these announcements as we keep you guys up to date every single week. Lastly, today I want to discuss the recent passing of another bill in Ontario that's been making some waves. It's the controversial Bill 97, Helping Home Buyers Protecting Tenants Act. And this is a little bit different than the Bill 23 we discussed in the past. This is a new bill that the government just passed called Bill 97, also known as the Helping Home Buyers Protecting Tenants Act. Now, this bill has sparked quite a bit of debate and raised some important issues. So let's dive into each individual aspect of the bill and what it's all about. Number one, expanding housing opportunities. One of the key points of Bill 97 is that it gives cities the power to expand their settlement areas, allowing for more homes to be built in rural areas. This is a big deal because it means that cities have more flexibility in deciding when and where to build new housing. By expanding settlement boundaries, the government hopes to address the pressing issue of housing shortages in Ontario and provide more options for home buyers. Another issue that the bill addresses is protecting tenant rights. Bill 97 also introduced new protections for tenants. For example, tenants now have the right to install and use portable air conditioners in their units. However, landlords can raise rents to compensate for additional electricity costs. The bill also doubles the fines for offenses under the Residential Tenancies Act, including bad faith evictions. This sends a strong message that unfair practices will not be tolerated and aims to protect tenants from unscrupulous landlords. Number three, balancing concerns. While there are many positive aspects of Bill 97, there have been some concerns raised as well. One section of the bill has raised red flags as it gives the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing the power to impose limits and conditions on municipal rental replacement requirements. This could potentially lead to the loss of thousands of rental units if these protections are removed. So it's crucial to strike a balance between encouraging housing development and protecting existing rental units and also the rights of tenants. Number four, industry perspective. The real estate and development industry have generally expressed a support for Bill 97. They appreciate provisions that help clear the backlog at the Landlord and Tenant Board and cut red tape around developments. The Ontario Real Estate Association in particular has praised the bill for its focus on intensification around major transit stations and making it easier to convert commercial properties into housing, which is a really interesting topic as we explore more creative ways of creating housing. So to sum it up, Ontario's controversial Bill 97, the Helping Home Buyers Protecting Tenants Act, is making waves in the housing and development landscape. It aims to address the housing shortage by giving cities the power to expand settlement areas and introduce new protections for tenants. However, there are concerns about the potential loss of rental units and the need to strike a balance between development and protection. Overall, the bill represents a significant step forward in addressing the housing crisis throughout Ontario. In conclusion, all these changes in the real estate market and housing industry continue to signal towards continued government pressure towards improving housing affordability. That's how I look at it. By bringing household costs down and bringing housing prices down, at least in the foreseeable future until things stabilize. Thank you for joining me today on today's show report. I hope the information in today's video was useful. Lots of changes, lots of opportunities. Stay informed and message me or the Shoreview Real Estate team with any real estate related questions you may have. Have a great weekend. All the best.